Amen. We're back. We're back. I said we are back with part two. Me and my wife, and she looking good tonight. Y'all look at her. See, here I go with this phone again. We're just gonna kind of sit that there. Um,
Hey, everybody.
and I am excited. We're getting ready to um, jump right into part two, where we were last Sunday. I hope that you all have
Last Wednesday.
last Wednesday, last Sunday. Like I'm just ready for church. Let me play it off. We
Show
already
enough
prayed. We already prayed. She's talking about
Show enough good.
show no good. Show no good. But she, my wife real saved. She real saved. She said, we gonna pray. I said, we gonna pray right now. So we've already prayed. Uh, we've already prayed, and we're going to pick up where we left off. Stay tuned. Everybody stay connected this whole service. We'll be on here about 45 minutes at the most. We got some exciting news we want to share with you at the end of this class. All right, you ready, babe?
I am ready.
Tell everybody how much you love me first.
Okay.
Tell the folk how much you love
We
me.
got 45 minutes.
I know, but take 5 minutes to tell the folk how much you love me.
I'll take 5 seconds to tell you that I love you very much.
Ooh.
He's so spoiled.
Look at
y'all.
me again. Tell me.
We got 45 minutes.
I know, but you
I'ma
said
take-
5 seconds. You only
I
used
did.
2 to you.
Come on, let's count.
All right.
I love you so much.
Ooh.
There it is.
Come on, here we go. She love me, y'all.
Okay.
Hey, we miss y'all, but seriously, we're going to jump right in here. She's going to pick up where she left off. We're going to do a recap real quick, and then we'll jump right into the lesson tonight. Amen?
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to do a recap, and I did, as promised, we would hone in a little bit more also at the top of the hour, top of the 45 minutes to our singles and just us as individuals, period. So last week we talked about our temperaments, and it means in simple terms, it is the inborn part of a man or woman that determines how he or she reacts to people, places, and things. So this is different from our genetics, like our brown hair and our brown eyes and all of that. And we want to stress again that it is important in the recap. We stressed that it was important to know how God created you. You have to know that for so many reasons. You have to understand what your makeup is. We talked about the temperament and the character and the personality and how they are layered immediately upon birth. And sometimes we go back just to the character and deal with the part of us that has learned behavior and the environment mixed to it. But we rarely take out time or even may not be totally aware that there is a God-given temperament that he has given us prior to birth. And the reason that it is important to know that is because it has everything to do with who you connect with, what draws you to that person, why are you the person that shy away from crowds, or why do you have to be the life of the party? All of those things play a part into who God has called you to be. Even down to your career paths. Everybody can't be greeters. Everybody can't be on the front line. There are people that are okay with working by themselves, fouling and so forth. So it's important to understand who you are. I want to give you an example to further confirm the importance, and I'll use me for an example. I am a melancholy, and one of my needs, and we all have God-given needs. One of my needs is that I deal in truth, order, reliability, and dependability. But I'm also selective when it comes to social gatherings, so I'll go, but I'm not going to just jump all the way in. In my strength, I'm a great thinker, but in my weakness, I can deal with low self-esteem. And this is why it's important to have the Holy Ghost, because you can only operate in your strength by the empowerment of the Holy Ghost. There is another temperament called the sanguine, and this person likes to be told that they're loved, needed, and appreciated. Their strength is that they bring life and energy to the room. They don't mind jumping all the way in, saying, "Hey, everybody, how's everybody doing? Come on, and let's have a good time." But their weakness is that they are least disciplined and organized. They can't stay on task. So we can connect when it comes to going to a social gathering together. I'll let you be the life of the party, okay? But I will sit my selective self back and enjoy myself that way. But we may have a problem when it comes to working together to complete a task or a project because, again, my needs are reliability, dependability, and as a sanguine, I can't count on you because you're easily distracted to complete a task. So we may not be able to work together, okay?
But what about the saying opposites attract?
And they do attract, but I still say that it is important to understand because even in the opposite attract, even in the opposite attracting, being attracted to each other, we both have to understand what it is to make the environment that we're in together a cooperative one.
You go, girl. Look at
And
you.
and a cooperative environment. And in marriages, that's what happens. You have to understand the makeup of each other so that you can, make the environment that you're in, your home, a cooperative one. This is also why, Pastor, we always encourage premarital counseling. So very important.
Don't go fast. Go slow so our singles can understand.
Singles, premarital counseling is important.
Is
Most
important.
times it's very important because it has a way of bringing out things that you either didn't know about that person or you knew something but couldn't put your finger on it and eventually ended up ignoring it. I think sometimes we call them red flags. Okay, these are these things that people do repetitiously, but they continue to apologize for it, and because they apologize, we forgive, but we forgive and give other chances. But if it's a part of their nature, if it's a part of their temperament, and this is how they're choosing to operate, we may not want to stick around. So it is important to understand the marital counseling is important. I know engagements that have been called off because things were exposed in marital counseling, and you further saw that there was no willingness to choose to make things or to present a cooperative environment.
Would you say that not even just the choice or the willingness, we actually want, when you go through that marital counseling, it shows you that you're not as connected as you thought you was.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. That you're not connected to that person the way that you thought the way that you thought that you was. It will definitely expose that, and sometimes exposing that you deal with how you're going to respond to that exposure. How am I going to respond to the fact that I'm sitting in a marital counseling class and this counselor just exposed that I'm insecure?
That's why, as a single person, you got to know what you know about you before you try to come together with somebody else.
Exactly. Exactly. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Because you could think that a marriage will fill a void,
That part.
and
That
it's
part.
really not. And then your marriage won't be successful because you just been trying to fill a void because you really don't know who you are
That part.
as a single person.
And as a single, healed person,
That's the key word, that heal. Let me tell you something. We gonna ride on this heel.
you got to get healed.
Because we got so many marriages that are broken because you've taken two hurt people and we've joined together, and we hadn't healed. We really hadn't healed. And I think now, Lady Sampson, not to cut you off, please forgive me. I think now marriages are not built on what we were built on back when we first started 22 years ago.
Right.
You know, we was like, we in it and let's make it work.
Right.
Can I ask you a question? I'm gonna put you out on Front Street.
Okay.
Babe.
Okay.
Had y'all don't laugh. Don't y'all laugh. Okay. Babe, if we had went to marital counseling, would you made the choice?
Would I have married you?
Yes. You ain't gonna hurt my feelings.
No, and that's okay. I'm gonna be. I believe in truth, so I'm gonna be truthful. Would I have still married you had those things been exposed? I'm going to say yes. And I say, wait. We got 45 minutes. I'm going to say yes. But I say my yes based on the unhealed Marion that I was back then. The part of Marion that was a people pleaser, the part of Marion that in all females, sometimes we have this instinct to nurture someone back to health. We have that instinct to maybe save somebody. Do you remember
Watch your
when
mouth.
we were
Watch your mouth.
Do you remember when we first met? We were talking, not in a relationship, but we were just kind of I think we started dating or whatever. And you told me you didn't trust nobody.
Mm-hmm.
You told me I don't trust people, and that you can't be friends with females.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that was his truth. But my belief was that it is possible. So originally, my thing was, I'm going to show you,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily prove him wrong. That would have been the end result, in which I did end up doing. But that's neither here nor there. But that was that Marion that was saying, you know what, I can help him.
So,
I can prove to him, because I knew who I was. I was broken in a sense, but I was also that people pleasing kind of thing. I was like, I want to make sure everybody is good. So it was from that place that relationship or that friendship started. I can be your friend because I know that I can be a good friend to people.
So you started dating me. Now the truth's coming out. You see that? You started dating me because you thought I was a charity case. But you know what? That's funny in humor, and we're gonna try to stick to our agenda. But there are marriages now
Mm-hmm.
that are based off of, I'm gonna save you.
Yeah.
This is gonna be, I'm a pull you out of what you're in. You're gonna be my, and that goes back to dealing with people that are insecure.
Absolutely. That is extremely important. But what we don't realize is that person that we marry, that may be broken at that point or may not know enough about themselves at that point, they can still evolve. So you marry this person and your expectations of your marriage is from that person that's broken, or that person that was needing love, or that person that lacked a father in their life, not thinking that person is getting ready to evolve into a whole nother person over time. So your mind is still with that person, with that male or their wife or that husband. Your mind is still with that person that you married when you said I do.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't give into consideration that we're about to evolve.
Right.
And where I evolve has a lot to do with what's going on in our marriage. And finding my healthy place, finding my voice, finding out who I am. When I married you, I did not know who I was.
Right.
Do I regret marrying you? Absolutely
I know
not.
you don't, baby. 'Cause look at me. But you
Go ahead.
You're saying something really, really powerful that evolve. I think for us, we because we grew up under such pressure.
Right.
We grew up under that church pressure.
Right.
And that's a whole nother segment.
Whole nother segment.
But we had that church pressure because we married young.
We did.
I look at my kids often. I'm looking at Junior and my other son Ashley. I'm like, dude, I was married at y'all age.
Absolutely.
And they far from the thought of being married.
And we
we
different
married,
times.
so the time is different.
Yeah.
And so now that we've evolved to where we are now, I had to literally learn to love the woman you became.
Absolutely. And you
Same
as well.
thing.
As well.
Wow. Okay.
As well. And I think the key to learning that is being liquid. Don't have you cannot in a marriage have a fixed mindset
Oh,
with regards to who you are connected to. The only thing that won't change is what God has given us, and that is our God-given temperament.
temperaments, right.
But we can change how we respond and what we based on the things that we were taught, based on our learned behavior. We can choose to get rid of the mask, that personality that we show people,
Right.
that keeps you from learning who we actually are in terms of our character, and then layering all the way back to our temperament. We can definitely change those things. You've got to be open. I was having a discussion with someone yesterday, and I think I shared that with you, where the person said, you're not supposed to go into a marriage with what you know and what you've learned and this, that, and the other. And I kind of understood what they were trying to say, but my thought to that was, it is unavoidable to go into a marriage without, and leave back all that you know and all that you've learned, because that's just who you are
Right.
at that moment.
Uh-huh.
So you come to the table with something, but the problem is when you come to that table with who you are, and who you are needs to change. You're closed to that.
And that's the part we're talking about being liquid. You
Being liquid.
You have to, because mama made the apple pie that way. Might not necessarily be the way you need to make the apple pie.
Absolutely.
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 Daddy changed the flat that way. You got to figure another way out to change the flat, which is going to work for you.
Absolutely.
Now we're in a generation now where we work smarter and not harder,
Absolutely.
because times have changed.
Absolutely.
They have changed.
Absolutely.
And you said something else about that whole liquid piece, about being liquid. I firmly believe that when a union comes together, and this is just me. This is just giving the liberty. When a union comes together, no matter how it came together, because that covenant is ordained by God. That's why we can't have Steve, Mary, and Steve.
That's right.
Because it's not a covenant with God. But I believe that if that union came together, and because it's a covenant under God, okay, it will work.
It will work if you allow it to work.
That's what you took the words
go.
out. I was going to use choice.
Right.
You have to make the choice to make it work. You have to stay focused on, and this is really old school. I say old school. Because if you're in the thing, whether you kind of went off and did your own thing and then seek God or whatever, now you have to deal with the fact that I jumped into something that God actually has sanctioned. That's why, back to that marital counseling.
Okay.
Back to that marital counseling. That's why it's so important to go through that piece.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
We cannot stress how important marriage counseling is, because a professional person, premarital, thank you, premarital counseling is so important, because you don't want to get yoked with somebody that God don't want you to be with. And I believe God uses premarital counseling
Absolutely.
to show you
Absolutely.
this is not what I want for your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me give you my last example to that point. I told you earlier that I'm a melancholy. One of the other traits that I have as a melancholy is that I believe in free will. I'm a faithful person. I'm a loyal person. I can be a friend to whoever, but it's going to be my choice to do that. You can't make me
Can't
do
make
a thing.
Lord have mercy.
You can't. But once you have me, you got me.
I got you, girl.
You got me for life.
For life.
To death.
Huh?
Till death. Do us part.
I'm just playing. I just want to see your reaction.
We was just really rolling.
We
and
were
just messed it
rolling.
up. But
She
anyway,
played too much.
but that's me. Now there is a temperament called a choleric. A choleric, in their strengths, they have the ability to gather people together. But in their weaknesses, they only see people as tools that they can use. There's always a hidden agenda. They don't see a person for themselves. They say, oh, this is going to work for what I got going on in my head. And a choleric has to always have control. They've got to be in control over everything. They have to even be in control of your thoughts. And so that's where me connecting with and my husband's not a choleric, thank God for him. Me connecting with someone who has a temperament of a choleric, it won't work because they want control and I want free will. I want to want you. I don't want you to make me want to, you can't make me want you. He's not a choleric, y'all.
But I could put some cologne on that you like. That'll make you want me, right?
Okay, it is so important, y'all. He plays a lot. It is so important that you understand who it is you're connected to, because me being married to someone that has to have control, their way is the only way. There's no other way. That kind of person has a problem, first of all, yielding to the Holy Ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Without the Holy Ghost, they are described as an Adolf Hitler. Mm-hmm. With the Holy Ghost, they are a perfect Apostle Paul. But they've got to see and they've got to make the choice to yield. And the problem with yielding for them is that it exposes that their way wasn't the best way.
And also, would you say to that particular God-given need that also for yielding to them in their mind makes them feel like they lost?
Absolutely. Anything that exposes that they are wrong, they are in error, they are in any form of fashion incompetent, they will they're in their weaknesses, their pride will stand up and say, no, I'm not wrong about this. I'm going to have my way. And when they realize they're dealing with someone that believes in free will and free choice, and they realize they cannot control that person, they will leave you alone altogether.
And act as if they never knew you.
Act as if they never knew you. And this is why in marriages, you've got to understand what God is wanting from you, what he created, your inborn, what is your makeup, because there's just certain connections that you just cannot afford, because it'll be a hindrance to your walk with the Lord. Mm-hmm. It'll be a hindrance to your walk with the Lord, and there won't be it is safe to say it won't be a positive resolve unless that person makes the absolute choice to yield to God and what God wants him or her to be in this marriage. In this marriage. And if you're not open to that, there won't be a healthy marriage.
So the whole thing with the choleric person is the yielding of it, because the temperament doesn't go away.
It does not.
It doesn't go away,
It's
and that's the same with the other temperaments. There has to be a constant yielding. The way God functions is so amazing.
It is so amazing
because He creates a need to want Him all the time.
All the time. All the time.
Did y'all hear what I said? He creates a need to want Him all the time.
Absolutely.
And we miss it because we try to. Let me say it like this: that need to want Him more. If we don't yield to Him, we'll start trying other things. That's what brings in infidelity. That's what brings in drunkenness. Yes. That's what brings all these things into a marriage, because you have a need, but you think that your wife or your husband can fulfill that need.
Absolutely.
You talked last week. We
Absolutely.
talked last week about having that relationship here, right?
Here.
Before we deal with this.
That's correct. That is correct.
Isn't He awesome? Like, I mean, come on, just oh my goodness, the way he just everything
Everything
circles back to him.
circles back to him. He's got to be at top. He's
He
got
has
to
to
be
be
at the top.
of everything.
Everything.
Our marriages, everything, our money, everything.
Absolutely.
Oh wow. Okay. Let's jump into the Lord have mercy. I keep thinking about how this need. It's safe to say, Lady Sanders, that marriages now that they're in turmoil is because we're not actually addressing the need.
That is correct. And when you say the need, what is the need?
Him.
That part. We hold, in marriages especially, we hold each other hostage, and our expectations of them is so high that it's so much pressure to reach it, and we're not even enlightened to the point that we're not going to meet it.
We're not.
That's not what we were called to do. In that sense. That need, that void that you have, that connection that you're looking for, you will only find it in God. And this is why, Pastor, this is why husbands, let me chime this in here, because it's for both of us. But husbands, this is why it is so important that you align yourself with God and what he requires of you as a man, so that when you become someone husband, you'll be able to, in the Holy Ghost, provide covering and security over your wife. We are gifts to you.
Right. Come on, Adam.
And we are gifts to you. Adam chose Eve. God, you taught us that in Bible class.
I did.
You did. God created Eve because he looked at Adam and said, it is not good for man to be alone. So I'm going to create him a suitable helper, one that will align themselves with you in the purpose and the job that I've already given to you. So husbands, if you are not aligned with God and don't understand what God wants from you, you're not going to be able to cover us properly. And the last thing you want your wife to do is find out how to make it without their covering.
Let me say this, because I don't want you to get off the brothers. Look, no, I'm just playing. Look, and wives, let me tell you, you can't. Don't be. What did you talked about last week about that nagging wife, that one?
Absolutely.
Pastor and Lady Sanders said you need to line yourself up. No. Don't become her.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We can't become her.
Because watch this. It took me time.
A whole lot of time.
Watch your mouth, sister. It took me time to line up. Now I've been pastoring 9 years. I just can I be honest? There, zoom the camera in right here. Zoom because I want them to hear this real. I've been pastoring 9 years. I just got in line maybe 2 years ago. And I think, and I told her today on the way to church, I said, girl, you got a man
that loves you.
That, you want me to say it that way?
That's
Don't
right.
say it the other way?
Don't say it the other way.
That loves you. Because when I look at her, ladies, when I look at my wife, I see her as God's daughter. And because I'm in line with him, this here works because I treat her like Christ treats the church. Because the Bible tells the husbands to love the woman.
Love your wives as Christ loved the church.
As Christ loved the church.
Absolutely.
So wives, let me say this. Let me say this real clear. Okay, we've been in it 22 years. Okay, and some of y'all probably saying right now, well, Pastor, I ain't got that kind of time. Look, I ain't got 20 more good years left to deal with him. Okay, let me tell you how you can speed it up. Can I share with them how they can speed it up? You can get on your knees.
Absolutely.
And pray for your husband.
Absolutely.
And while you're praying that he gets in line, you make sure that you're in line as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because what's going to create a whole nother dysfunction is that he gets in line and you out of line.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's the other part to that.
Talk.
Because, and I'm gonna speak from experience. When I didn't feel the security that I needed as a wife, there was a part in our marriage, where I said, okay, well, since I'm left kind of to fend for myself, there was a feeling of abandonment, if you will, because I'm not your mother, and I'm not going to try to be that. And that's what you're looking for. I can't be that. I went into a mindset of, well, then I don't need you. If you're not going to cover me, I'm not asking you to have all the answers. I'm not asking you to know it all. I'm asking you to learn how to love me as Christ loved the church. And here's what happened to me, you all. When I yielded and gave him the opportunity to do so, that meant I had to put myself back in a vulnerable position, and give him the opportunity, develop trust over again, to allow him that room and that space to evolve into that person, because the person he was not who he had become overnight. So I had to allow that room, because at the end of the day, I still loved him. I didn't like the man that he was and the way that he was responding to things, but I knew I still loved him. And what happened and what will happen is, as they get themselves in order, your heart begins to thaw out. It'll thaw out, and you'll see, you know what? He's trying. He's trying. And the more you allow yourself to thaw out on the inside and give him more room to get it right, because you see that he's really, really trying to align himself with God, trying to do what he needs to do to cover. The more that you do that, you'll find yourself being able to relax, because simultaneously God is showing him how to cover you. God is showing him and showing you can relax. You can relax.
Can we deal with the cover piece, the covering? Because in my mind just now, I was just thinking about what a typical man think covering a wife is all about.
Covering is not control.
And it's not all about him paying all the bills.
It's not about him paying all the bills. And when I say control, covering is not control from that insecure place that we often deal with.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Covering is remaining in alignment with God for your family. Mm-hmm. And as you follow Christ,
right,
we can follow you.
We got to be a priest of our home.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What you used to tell me, I was just a LO. I didn't have the RD yet.
Oh yeah, the Lord of my house. I said, you just got the lowercase LO. You ain't got the RD yet.
Did I ever get the RD?
You know what? You might be on the R. Not just playing. No, seriously. I tell people now, to God be the glory. We're not perfect, but God has truly helped us to become healthy. He has truly helped us to become healthy. And this does not mean that we don't get opportunity, and I call them opportunities, that we don't face some of the same things that we faced before. Right. The opportunity that I like to look at it is, we get an opportunity to respond differently each time. Mm-hmm. We get another opportunity. Here's another opportunity. Okay.
Because it's going to come again.
It's going to come again. How are you going to respond?
Right.
Are you going to respond in a way that keeps your marriage healthy? Or are you going to respond in a way that triggers you to go all the way back? Because the last thing you want to do is respond to your spouse, the evolved spouse, you don't want to respond to them in a way that triggers them to go back and revisit that broken person when they were a child.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good.
It's not.
Because then that means so many things to me. That means you don't really appreciate, if give me the liberty to say that means in so many ways you don't appreciate the woman that I am evolving into. Is it because you're insecure?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because you think that maybe I'll find something or someone or something or happiness outside of you? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so because we feel that, again, insecurity is that unease that you see in yourself. And if you respond to that unease by pulling out something that was from that broken place, that says so many things, not just about you, but about the love that you have for that person and the respect level that you have for the person that they've evolved into, and not realizing that we're here as your suitable helper. I realize that the call on your life and the call on my life, it matches. It is an alignment with each other. I don't have a desire to step over you because I understand who God has. I'm sorry, baby.
Yeah,
Who
'cause
God
you
has.
up here
I'm
beating on
sorry.
me and stuff.
I understand who God has called you to be, and I understand that there are places that we'll go. There are people that we'll reach that will only be able to do it healthy and whole
And together.
and together.
And together. And together. I'm gonna just divert back just real quick, just to deal with the covering piece again, because I want to make sure that we as men understand what covering it is.
All
what
right.
covering is. You gave a great definition to it, but from a place of spirituality, and not to say you didn't, but from a place of spirituality, covering your house looks like you being an answer for unanswered questions,
Okay.
if that makes sense. Okay, you being an answer. And let me just plug this in here. You're not going to always have an answer
Yeah.
as the coverer. I'm not talking about a provider. I think that the challenge for some men, especially alpha men, I was raised in a household, and my dad is an alpha male. He's just that dude. And so I grew up thinking, seeing providing as a covering.
Got it.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
But from a different angle, a different view, now that I see that I'm actually a coverer, providing comes easy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Okay.
it has a lot more to do with paying the bills. I remember in early on in our marriage, because I believe also covering means also to spend time with your
Yeah.
family,
Yep.
spend time with your children. I remember us having several talks about, I would say, or we would have discussions about, okay, just because we're under the same roof does not mean
Right.
we're spending time. Doesn't mean that we're covering or we're developing that, allowing ourselves to be in that position that our children will always be open to coming to talking to us.
Right. So when we're dealing with covering, it goes past us making sure that the house is locked up
And the bills are paid.
and the bills are paid. I want that stressed because I know society put us in that place. Oh, you want a man that can take care of you, girl. Get you a man that can provide for you. I mean, what good does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? Like all this prosperity mindset, prosperity mindset that we have in unions and marriages are causing us to drown.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about drown in debt. I'm talking about just drown, period. Because we so busy chasing prosperity that we miss the whole thing of covering and what it actually means to
Cover your
cover.
family.
And my wife used to tell me when we went through we went through a few of them, but this one particular one we went through. She had this thing about being secure. She just didn't feel secure. And I'm like, man, the doors are locked, the windows are locked. We got ADT posts. I got the GAC in the house. Girl, what are you talking about secure? I left her uncovered. And it took me a minute, brothers. If we got any brothers on here, I hope y'all watching with y'all wives. Okay. It took me a minute to understand that it's more than me having the GAC in the house, me locking the doors and all that kind of stuff. That stuff was hucky push.
Okay, hucky push.
You heard me? It wasn't until the alignment came and God began to show me how to cover her.
That's right. That's right.
Your wife should be able to come to you, brothers, and be able to get an answer because you're connected with God.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all follow what I'm saying?
Yes, and be okay if the answer is not there right away.
Right away.
Be okay with knowing, I'm okay with knowing that Pastor may not have all of the answers right now.
I got most of them.
Okay, he said he has most of them.
I'm just playing.
But I'm okay with that, and it doesn't leave me with this abandonment type feeling. But what it does, what makes me okay with it all, and with him not having all the answers at once or having answers, all the time, is that I know that he has relationship with God. So in due time, in God's time, God will give him what needs to happen with our family, what needs to happen in our marriage, how he needs to cover us in this instance versus how he covered us in that instance. And so I relax as a wife. I relax even with some of the question marks, because I know in just a moment,
Mm-hmm.
we talk about the fruit of the Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit is patience.
Mm-hmm.
In just a moment, God's going to give him. And it is not my job as a wife to overstep.
Right.
And
Yep.
make a way. Now,
Right.
this is different from saying we don't have a voice. I'm not saying that we don't have a voice, but we don't have the authority to overstep him as the head of the house, overstep the relationship that he has with God and the connection that he has. We don't want to ever put him in a position to make a hasty decision and to move without the unction of the Holy Ghost or the Lord leading him in a way. You don't want to ever I'm just going to do it because my wife is on my nerves or my wife wants this. I'm just going to do it. And then there we go. We finna spiral.
We're going to spiral down because we've been there.
Absolutely.
I've made hasty decisions just so that my wife can stop. She can this here. Lord,
Was I nagging like that?
Ooh, I mean, I can give you an example, but we'll talk about it offline.
No, let's talk about it now.
No, baby, I don't want to.
Okay.
No, we're going to talk about it because we got to wrap it up. It's 8:15.
Okay, we got to 8:30.
We got 45 minutes. See, she wanted we have 45 minutes. We started at 7:30. See, she was trying to see how she just talked about just trying to step, and then she said, "You know what? Let me. I'm on camera." Well, we got it. We got to wrap it up. We got to wrap it up. We want to make sure that we kind of stay in the confines of the time. Okay, but we got some great news for you. She didn't get a chance to go. You know what? Y'all just give some likes real quick if y'all can stay in 15 more minutes, because I want her to be able to go over the insecurities of woman, because that's where we actually left off last week. Can y'all stand 15 more minutes? 15 more minutes and stay on with us. We good? Okay, so we good. Okay, so we got a bunch of hearts and lights. Let's roll. Okay. Well, she's gonna go over a couple of dealing with woman insecurities, because we did the brothers last week, and she's gonna bring out a few of them. a few of them because she have quite
List.
a bit here.
Well, I won't give the ad lib to it all, and some of these are for both genders. They can go both ways.
There it is.
Women sometimes, women and men, we can be very defensive uh, when we're exposed, when our errors, both men and women, when our just people in general that deal with insecurity, when our errors are exposed, or when we are made to feel or look less than what we or look incompetent, we begin to be very, very defensive,
Right.
and we deflect anything that is truth, or an ugly truth. We deflect it to the next person. We either deflect it on our spouse and point out their flaws, or we deflect it on just anybody that we are connected to, and it further fuels the pride that we have, that we may not even think that is there. So we become very defensive. You was going to say something?
I was just going to tell you. I got a text message wanting us to answer a question, but we used to call that deflecting. What we used to call it?
Turning the tables.
Turning the tables. Woo, that's gonna be one. That's gonna be a whole class. Turning the tables. Woo, y'all don't go nowhere. We got some good news to share with y'all. So we're gonna
Turn the tables.
Turn the tables.
And then we have someone that needs to have control. An insecure person will play mind games with you, and try, in a sense, to make you feel that you cannot make it without them. There is nobody else out there that wants them. When the absolute truth is, they are afraid of losing you. The absolute truth is that because of their insecurity, they feel that you, or they know that you are better than them in certain areas, and so because they come from an insecure place, they have to play the mind games in order to maintain control over you. They operate in manipulation a lot, and over a period of time, your verbiage begin to change to how they are and how they talk. So to avoid losing you, they have to do what they need to do. They operate from an insecure place, if you will, to maintain control.
That's
Jealous,
a miscontrol for you.
yeah.
Okay.
That and I didn't put miss there because some of these go for both parties. There's always insecure person that deal with jealousy, because jealousy stems from seeing something that, if you give me the liberty to say it this way, but wanting something that you may not feel you have. Seeing something, or seeing someone that exposes an inadequacy of yours, or exposes the fact that you deal with low self-esteem and insecurity. So jealousy is there as well. Then you also have the belittler, the one that will put down everything and everyone around you. And women, sometimes we can do that to other women when we see that other women are maybe in a place or have the appearance of being in a place that maybe we desire to be, whether they look better, they're shaped better, or whether they're light skinned, dark skinned, those different types of things that we feel men are attracted to. And I'm just keeping it top surface. Men are attracted to. Sometimes we will belittle things and people around us to make ourselves feel better. Okay, so we deal with that as well. We can definitely overact. It calls us an overact queen. It says typically this insecure woman will try to make you feel like an idiot and guilty and hold a rock solid grudge. These things happen slowly, and everything is always blown way out of proportion. This trait helps her lift her, and shove your face in the dirt. Okay? Need I remind you, she finds no value in yourself. This is why you've got to know who you are and know what God says about you. Because as long as you don't know what God says about you, then you'll be too busy focused in on what society says we should be, how we should look, what should happen in our marriages, and you won't find a healthy place outside of the Holy Ghost, outside of aligning yourself with the Lord.
Before you go to the next one, that healthy place, guys, we don't. In order to become healthy, because I know we've said this a few times in here, don't find healthiness in other relationships, if that makes sense. You got to find healthiness first in healing, and the way you're gonna get that, I hope I'm making sense, is because it's all in my head, and I'm trying not to um, say certain things. But to become healthy, let me simplify it this way. You have to find it in Christ.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, that's
Black
just
and white.
that's where you find it at. You have to find it. You have to find it in Christ, in Him. Okay, to get healthy. I keep reverting back to me because this conversation is extremely dear to me because I was one that was very insecure, very insecure. I dealt with a lot of eternal things and had a stank way of expressing it outwardly.
Absolutely.
And so in order for me to become healthy, okay, I couldn't look to her. I couldn't look to outside relationships. I couldn't, look at stuff on TV and yada, yada, yada. Because for a while, I thought
Child.
healthy, she probably know what I'm going to say. I thought healthy was more than in Tisha, more than in
Gina.
Gina. I thought that was healthy.
Now that is the truth,
That's
y'all.
absolutely the
He
truth.
dealt with me as if he was Martin. Come here, girl. Come on. And so
Giving them
he's
them
a
luscious, girl.
he's a Martin. He was a Martin and Jenny kind of person, but I'm a Dwayne and Willie kind of person. You
Yeah,
know,
I know no
I was
whack
doing.
relationship.
I was Dwayne and Willie, Dwayne, and so I'm looking at him like you coming at me like Martin, but I'm not Gina.
And I wasn't Dwayne.
But you see how messed up we were,
Dwayne spent all that time chasing her too.
and it's okay.
See,
It's okay because he got her. It's
you,
okay.
you're right.
But no, seriously, when you don't know who you are in God, you fall to what the flesh
Mm-hmm.
sees as acceptable.
As acceptable, and that's where I was trying to go. See, that's why we together, cause she just know how to get off of here and pull that hoe. That's what I was talking about. Which is talking about I was on the microphone. They heard you on that microphone.
Did y'all? I did tell him he was playing too much.
Come on, finish.
But it is important to know who God wants you to be. What we will do also is we blame the game. We play the blame game before we take accountability for our flaws and our errors and our inadequacies and all of that. We will blame. We will play the blame game. We will say, "I'm this way because of you," or "I responded in a certain way because of you. You did this. You did that. It's your fault." And we never, again, it's another form of deflection, and we never take accountability. Again, this is not gender driven. It goes both ways because there are women that operate from an insecure place as well as men. Also, let me give you this one. A needy reinforcement for validation. And that reinforcement and validation that is needed 10 times out of 10 will never be good enough. We'll never be able to say enough that you're a good person. We'll never be able to say enough that you can do this or that God is with you. And so now I do it to him because I mean it, but there was a need that he had that he looked to me to reinforce, and I couldn't meet that. Okay, he had to be confident in who God called him to be, and me as well. and no longer, and the more confident that he had become in God and what God had wanted him to be, the less pressure it was for me to reinforce at a extremely high level and validate that you really can do this. You really are good. You really are who God called you to be. It wasn't until he aligned himself with that. So there's that. We cast the spell of insecurity and guilt, shame. And then there's not a lot of honesty in our talk.
We're talking about an insecure person.
We're talking about an insecure person. When you deal with an insecure person, all of these things that we mentioned before is basically saying that you're not willing to be honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're not willing to be honest with yourself, see the naked truth of a thing, and don't see it from a place of this is how I remain. See it from a place of, wow, I didn't see this before,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm connected to the game changer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm connected to the Lord, and my connection with him, he left his Holy Spirit with us
Mm-hmm.
so that we could change how we operate, so that we can change those things that we learned growing up. We can change those things, that environment that we didn't have any control over, that we grew up in. Here's our opportunity. When the Lord shows us, here then is our opportunity to say, you know what? That's ugly. That's ugly, and that needs to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
Make the choice to change.
Mm-hmm.
Be okay with what you saw from the place of, yeah, that is who I was.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember we preached a message for your birthday from, what was it, Romans 8:1, and we talked about now. Put yourself in that position. That was then. Who I was, that was then. This is now. And that's what we want our marriages to get. Get on the other side of now. Start with you individually. And get on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Get on the other side. Because it can happen. It can happen. We are living witnesses. It can happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done.
It can happen. It can happen. And even and it take those that are healthy, because there's always room to grow.
Absolutely.
There's always room to
Absolutely.
grow in your marriage. Even those of us that's been married 30-some years and 40-some
Absolutely.
years, I found out that there's couples that's been married that long just because they've been married that long and they are separated living in the same roof. That's no way to live.
No way to live.
That's no way to live. But I also believe in the covenant and what God is sanctioned. I believe we should honor it, at all costs, unless, there's some domestic violence or, some other things in there that are lawful for us to divorce, just because we can't get along, that's not a reason to divorce.
It's not a reason to divorce.
We just got to find out where we need to meet to become healthy.